afternoon, everyone. We're gonna give it a minute to let people join, but I do know this webinar was shared a little bit more broadly. So not only do we have partner churches, a lot of names here I recognize, even people I've been emailing with today and talked to this week. We've got a lot of people that are just checking us out, trying to understand what is Touchpoint all about. So while people are joining, if you don't mind, maybe going down to the chat. If you have a chat, you should have a chat. Or if it's not, yeah, you have a chat. So go down to the chat, just drop in where you're from, name of your church, city and state. Would love to see where people are joining us from around the country. Um, Love to see some new names here. Always love meeting new people that are doing God's work in their neck of the woods. So thank you for joining us, everyone. Brad, I didn't bring any good dad jokes. I don't know. Somebody this week told me I've really failed on my dad jokes in
Are
the
you, are
last
you
webinars.
depleting your are you depleting your supply?
Yeah, I had a really good one that I shared. I'll share my favorite joke, which I did share this week. And if you were at Summit, I'm sorry, you're gonna hear this one again. But for all the new folks, uh, Jesus walks into a restaurant, walks up to the host, and he says, "I've got a reservation for 26." And the host looks at him and says, "But sir, there's only 13 of you. Do you really need a table that big?" And he goes, "Don't worry, we're just gonna sit on one side of the table." Hopefully got some laughs there, but I that's one of my favorites. Um, so again, as we're waiting for people to join, I'll spare you any more jokes. But if you don't mind, maybe just throwing in the name of your church, what city and state, because we have a lot of people joining us that are not partner churches already. So we'd love to get to know you, know where you're coming from. Um, this topic is a little bit more broad than things, so we open it up to people that just want to hear more about what we're doing, learn a little bit more about Touchpoint. So see a lot of folks I recognize here. So hello, hello. Wish I could just say hi to everyone here. All right. So I think let's go ahead and jump in. Haley, do you have the slides ready to share? Awesome. So we are very excited today to be talking about creating a unified experience with your church management system, your website, your mobile app. This is something I know, a question I have gotten a number of times over the last 5 years. Gosh, you've been creating great tools for the church management space, but how do we really integrate web, mobile into the database? It's such an important thing, and it's something that we've talked a lot about at Summit over the last few years, and it's been a big push of ours over probably the last 18 months. We've done a lot of work in this area to really have what that unified experience that people are asking for. And so we're going to dive into some examples, show you what's possible. Um, Haley, if you jump to the agenda here on the next slide. Oh, let me first introduce my partner here. Brad, it's Salursha. You guys have probably seen or heard him, but I'll let you say a little hello and a little introduction, Brad.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. Brad McElwain. I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm with Salursha. Been around TouchPoint going back many years. I'm one of the flies that buzzes around Chris's head, sometimes for good, sometimes maybe as a distraction. But he and I have worked together for many years. I've worked in the local church directly and indirectly for about 20 years now. So very familiar in all the opportunities and challenges from an IT perspective and trying to make things run smoothly and efficiently.
Awesome. For those that don't know me, my name is Chris Dolan. I oversee product here at TouchPoint. And just a little side note about Brad. So, as he said, actually, we have very similar backgrounds. I think we both used to be former IT directors at two decent sized churches that both were using TouchPoint. I moved into the product role. You do something similar, but more focused on more the web design IT services, which is a great need for our partner churches. And the beauty of that, the relationship that we have, is that as we said, we know we need to focus on more web, right? We need to focus on deeper integrations. We realized our skill set, our heart was on the people management and how do you connect people? How do you prevent them from falling through the cracks? How do you know them really well? And we could have built out a team that did design and web and all the IT services, managed services, but you know, that's what you specialize in. You've got a team that does that. And so I think it's a lot of synergy there, a great partnership in that we helped, build the tools that allows it to integrate into a website platform, but you bring that broader team of design, branding, expertise, um, to be able to really do what you do best and allow us to kind of swim in our lanes and do what we do best. So very thankful for Brad and the Solertia team and their partnership here. So let's go to the agenda and dive into the topic today. We're going to be talking and showing some examples. Unity among the platforms, we built out three great example persona churches in how they look across web, mobile, and database, and how you can have a unified experience for your people. And so we're going to show some of the best of that and talk through some examples. We'll talk about the benefits, right? It's not just um, so that it looks nice. There's a lot of very tangible benefits that we're going to dive into. One of the things that I constantly get is, well, shouldn't my website and mobile app just be the same? Or what's the difference between the database and the mobile app? And do I really need both? Or questions like that. I would say absolutely. These three tools serve very different audiences and they very different purposes. And so you want them to be unified, you want them to look consistent, you want to save time, but they don't all do the same thing, or they shouldn't all do the same thing, is maybe the way I would say that. So we'll talk through that and then dive, at the end, we'll dive in, what does this look like practically? How do you get started if if you're using multiple platforms for various things, or maybe you're new to TouchPoint and you're like, wow, this is great, but where do I start? We're gonna give you some tips on how to get started with that. Maybe you've been on TouchPoint for a long time and you just didn't know that we had this offering, or maybe you're still on our old app or on a different third-party app or something like that. We can give you some tips on where to go from there. So let's go ahead and jump in, and I want to share some beautiful examples here. So the first example here is a persona church that we put together called City Church. And what you're seeing on this screen is some of the many expressions that can be created through either TouchPoint directly, through the web app, through our mobile app, or through TouchPoint sites. And so on the left-hand side, the kind of big iMac looking is the login screen, custom branded, even down to the URL, which you don't see on this mockup. We can have it use your URL. So if it were City Church, city.church or something like that, we can have your login screen be my city.church. It can be that specific, and that just makes it familiar with folks, right? We're using the same color scheme, we're using the same graphics, we're using the same logos throughout all of this. You're not having to go to a generic site. Yes, we have a URL that has our name in it. We discourage actually you from using that and encourage custom domains, encourage you to brand it yourself, because we want your congregation to feel comfortable, to feel safe, to be familiar. Branding matters, right? Branding gives you a sense of what that church is about, what they're for. It makes you feel a certain way, and we want that experience for your congregants or maybe your guests or visitors as they interact with your website, with different elements of your database like check-in, a giving page, a registration page. We want it to feel like your church. put us in the background, take us off the site. We don't need our name or branding on there. We want it to be about you. And so some other things you're seeing here in the background, in the upper right-hand corner, you're seeing a website, a church website. Doesn't have to be laid out exactly like that. The beauty of TouchPoint sites is that you can lay this out however you want and make it look exactly like your current site, or you can build it from scratch and do it a completely new way. Or if you've got a site that you say, wow, this looks great, I want to do something similar to that, um, the platform is very flexible. In the center here, you're seeing a check-in screen, uses the same color, has the logo up in the kids ministry logo that fits with that city church logo, and just says welcome, right? It just looks like the church. So when you walk in, you're not seeing a generic check-in screen, but you're seeing something that looks familiar. The same with the giving page, has their logo. The URL should be for your church, and the mobile app. It has all consistent colors and look and feel. So let's look at some other examples here. We've got another persona. Very similar. This is, a demo church that we've put together called First Baptist. It could be First UMC. It could be First any kind of church, right? First Presbyterian. But some other examples here. Let's start with the one that you haven't seen in the front and center is emails, right? You want to be able to build beautiful email templates. This is using our email template builder. It looks and feels just like, how similar does that look to the mobile app or to the website? The other new screen that you're seeing in the left-hand corner is a mobile responsive version of the website. Um, One thing that Brad will probably talk about later is that the beauty of TouchPoint sites, you're building a website one time and it is built to be mobile responsive. The same with our email builder. You're building it, it's using a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, a tool that basically forces those elements to be done in a way that no matter what kind of device, whether you're on a desktop computer, maybe a tablet like an iPad, or an iPhone, it's going to look good. It's going to be easy to navigate. And you're seeing a couple examples here of how that brand and the beauty of that color scheme carries across the different elements. Last example here we'll show is a parish community, slightly different color scheme, different logo, but you'll see those consistent threads across. I think on one of the prior ones, you saw the giving page. It looked great on a mobile device. Here it is on an iPad. It scales beautifully to a web device, to a desktop as well. So you kind of see, and we'll get into this in the mobile app. The mobile app lets you set your colors, everything down to the logo. You're not downloading a generic church app. You're downloading the app that is named after your church. It has your logo as the icon. It has your name on there. And there's so many pages within the mobile app that you can set custom backgrounds. You can set custom tiles. You put your logo at the top. You pick the colors that are used throughout. And it looks and feels similar to your website, similar to your giving pages, similar to check-in, your email templates. All of that can be consistent across the board. And so these are just a few examples of things that we put together. We've seen some beautiful ones out there that we're going to actually give some examples of and share later on. But I think next we want to dive into what are some of the benefits of this. And some of these are obvious, right? I'm sure you all are thinking, wow, this is going to save us some time. And it sure is. Brad, do you want to chime in here about some of the time savings that this could bring to churches?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I know Chris and I are both passionate about is having the technology fall away and disappear so you can focus on content and strategy. No matter where you're doing the content entry, you want it to be as simple and straightforward and certainly efficient. One of the most common examples of that is double, triple, or quadruple data entry. And one of the key things here is putting together whether it's the mobile app or the website, a solution that can be an extension of the marketing or communications person at the church. They don't need to be a technology wizard to go into TouchPoint and make the changes, go to the websites and make the changes you'd expect for a content management system in 2024. And if you want to make a particular event available on the website or the mobile app, it's an involvement in TouchPoint. If you want to make a small group available, it's an involvement in TouchPoint. If you want to make media and resources available in the mobile app or on the website, it's a media and resource and TouchPoint. The big distinction, and we'll get into audiences in a moment, is whether your audience is unknown, anonymous, public, or a known quantity, like someone that's within your congregation. But at the end of the day, you're managing all of that in one single place. If it's tied to your data, it's in the web app. If it's tied to presentation for the website, it's in the content management system. And the feedback we've received as not only the mobile app, but in terms of the website, in terms of the usability and intuitiveness, and being able to, for non-technology folks, folks that just want to go in, make something look pretty and effective and get it out the door, they're able to do that with touchpoint sites, and not sometimes what we've all faced, even IT nerds like myself, the beating of your head against the wall, trying to get that font to look just right, or figure out why it's randomly adding spaces and things. All of those things are time sucks for a communications team.
Yeah. Well said. I get this question. This is probably one of the most asked questions I get. I sit in on a lot of demos, churches that are trying to kick their tires with TouchPoint, and they're coming from different systems and they say, oh my gosh, so tell me, if I create an event, how easy is it to get that into our website or into our mobile app? They're used to, oh, you create it in your database, then you go create it in your maybe your website is powered by your mobile app or vice versa. So you have to go create it in a second place, sometimes a third place. And that is a time suck, but it's also it's prone to errors. If you go and update something, you have to update it multiple times. The other thing I hear from comms people is, I don't want to give all of my staff that have the ability to create events access to manage our website because I don't want them updating other pages. The beauty of this, you create the event in TouchPoint. It's as simple as checking a box. That event now pulls in through the API directly into the website, directly into the mobile app. Those people that are creating events in TouchPoint do not have to have access to manage your website. Only the people that need to update regular pages about, whatever the page is on your website, that's all they need. Those are the only people that need access to it. So really big advantage there, and just saves a lot of time. And I know makes a lot of comms people very happy. Um, so that's a huge thing here. What you're seeing in this image is those events listing. So you probably are familiar with this. We did this in our old app. We have completely rebuilt this in the new app. So it's a different layout. There's better filtering. The images are better. There's landing pages. There's new registration types. It's a much better experience. And the beauty of our mobile app, as Brad alluded to, is it knows who you are. And so when you click on that event, it knows who you are, and you've got the form already filled out almost. There might be a few questions that you have to answer of things that might be new to that specific registration. But if it's a basic registration and all you need is, who's coming and maybe a payment, that payment method is, if you store that from a prior time you gave, a prior time that you registered for an event, it's all right there at your fingertips, and registering for an event could happen in a matter of seconds. So super quick, super easy.
And Chris, if you don't mind, I'm going to just add, just on this mobile app aspect, the ability to segment and laser focus what your congregants can see is the only limit, is how far you decide to drill down your data in your web app in the database. But the ability to make this mobile app experience, and mostly the content and the strategy, again, making the technology fall away, you can make that experience as targeted to that individual as you like, and which goes a long way in folks returning to the app after that first time. We've all installed apps before. We go to it, we come back at a second time, we see the same content, and then we never return. The way this is set up is not only dynamic, but also can be highly segmented based on how that individual is engaged with your church.
Yeah. Or the other is you go to the app, it's overwhelming with information. And I'm like, gosh, there's just too much. I don't want to go here. But as you said, it can be dynamic, right? I've got a kid now. He's almost 2.5. I should see information about children's ministry. But 3 years ago, maybe I shouldn't have seen that information, but it's available kind of a little bit more buried if I needed to go see it. But it's not going to show by default because the church knows I don't have any kids. That stuff shouldn't show in my feed. So, very personalized experience, which makes the user feel known and draws them back. It's a much more engaging experience. So why don't we move on? Here's another example. This is showing how that registration can be branded on the site. I don't think we have a picture of the widget that actually pulls that data in. Brad, I think will probably show a few of those maybe in some of the examples of some of the sites that have launched, but it's pulling the data right from Touchpoint and then showing that branded page for the registration. So saves you a lot of time. And we all know I've been on staff at a church. I worked at two different churches for almost 15 years combined. Brad, I don't know how long you were on staff at your church, but everybody at church wears so many hats, right? And you have so many jobs. The last thing you need to be doing is duplicate work. And so we want to make this as easy as possible for you. All right. Let your church brand shine. So, um, again, pretty self-explanatory. I've already talked about this, shown a lot of examples. Some of our partner churches have beautiful brands that are very distinct and have a very powerful feeling with them, right? And so the last thing we want is to plug your information into some unbranded kind of generic vanilla app. We want your app to look like you and so that when your congregants use it, they feel safe, they feel a connection, they feel the emotions that they should feel when they interact with your church and with your brand. And so here are some examples, everything from the tiles and everything can be the banners, all the content in it, the footer colors are all customizable. The header images, so each of the images around media, around events, around prayer requests, all have this ability to put background images in that can be images from your church, images from maybe a picture of your worship center, some kind of image that speaks to who you are and what your church is about so that people feel comfortable and familiar. So lots of places to put your logo. It's your logo. It's not TouchPoint. It's not some generic thing. We want it to look and feel like you. So pretty self-explanatory. Gave you a lot of examples up front. We're going to see more as we dive in here. So let's keep going here. The best experience for each audience. All right. Brad's going to dive into this a little bit more, but you've probably heard us talk a lot about this. Not every platform is the same. There's some pretty distinct differences in terms of who uses them, what the purposes of them are for, and so Brad, why don't we jump into that and look at some of those specific examples around those three platforms?
Absolutely. So we'll start with touchpoint sites or your websites. And so the question would be like, who is your target audience? Like, who are you intending to deliver content to on your website? And so based on lots of research and everything, there's a clear kind of understanding that folks who are coming to your website are those that are interested in learning more about your church. They are not necessarily those that are heavily engaged in your church. So this would be maybe your public audience or your anonymous folks, the people that you don't actually know who they are. So you're painting with a very broad brush, and that informs the type of content that you might want to share there, such as what someone might want to know the first time they come to your church. Like, what information do they need to know about parking, children's ministry, check-in, service times, certainly like any church-wide events that might be taking place. What's distinct about your theology or what you believe, those types of things. And if that content is there and your website brand is a good representation of your church identity and culture and kind of ethos, that will really help them prepare and know what they can expect. That first impression, when they walk into your church on Sunday morning, they've already felt that front door by looking at your websites. And when we pivot and then we start talking about the mobile app, then that's very different. So in the mobile app, we're talking about an audience that and you know them data wise because they have logged into the app. Now, it could be someone that's provides you their information for the first time when they log into the app, but as soon as they do, you know who they are. And the more that they do things within your church, from registering for events to giving to signing up for small groups, all of that, their age, their demographic, their family, everything else can inform the information and how you choose to kind of communicate that through the mobile app. And that allows your website to remain lighter, simpler, more focused. And what I've seen more often than not is the website becomes a landing spot for everything that every ministry leader, every lay leader, and anyone else who knows the right person to call gets a page on the website. And so a website ends up having hundreds of pages. And you can get into the science of how long people look at a website before they click away and everything else. Um, but the true kind of objective here would be to focus your website on that first time guest, that visitor that doesn't know anything about your church, and they land on that website. What do you want them to know? And your mobile app is what do you want everyone else to know as you try to drive them, engage them more in the life of your church and how all of that is taking place. And the other thing I would just kind of add to the mix is just specific on websites. Um, you know, anywhere between 3 and 4 years is a typical shelf life on like a website design. And any of us have been around long enough to go through site designs. Doing a website refresh, redesign in 2024 should not be an insurmountable budget expense to pull off and do it well. The TouchPoint Sites platform, if you all have the kind of opportunity to get into it, get your hands on it, it's so highly capable. It covers the core capabilities and functionality you would expect to see in like a Squarespace or a Wix or WordPress or whatever else you might expect to see. But more important than that, it allows you to focus on content and strategy. So if in 3 years you're like, it's time to refresh our websites, the content can stay and you just start replacing graphics, replacing layouts and everything else. And it puts more capabilities back into your hands. That third option here that's on the screen is the web app itself. And so Chris can nuance this a whole lot more. But the web app, as the mobile app capabilities become even more and more refined and become even more feature rich than they are today, a lot of your staff leaders and certainly your lay leaders and others will be driven to the mobile app because it's going to be a more attractive, a faster, simpler experience for them to do a lot of the things that perhaps they do in the web app today. Further focusing your true audience for your web app, and we'll just, by web app, I mean the core portal of TouchPoint is really going to be on your heavy admin users. And so that is a huge distinction in terms of usability, minimizing friction for folks to kind of engage in this digital ecosystem of your church.
Yeah. And so, Brad, as you said it, website, mobile app, pretty different, right? You've got your guests, kind of broader audience that aren't necessarily super engaged, but they might need things like, everything from first time visitor information to how do I get connected with kind of general events. Maybe how do I listen to a few sermons or watch the live stream or something, check this out before I come and visit in person. The mobile app goes a little bit deeper, right? And it's a different audience. Those people that are kind of your broader checking it out are pretty unlikely to download a mobile app. The mobile app is for the engaged person. And you don't need all of that information on the website. One thing I commonly hear is, you know, shouldn't your mobile app have everything that's on your website? If you've got a mobile responsive website, which TouchPoint Sites is, no, you don't need that. You can access all that content. You want your app to be a personalized experience. You want it to know who the user is. You want it to make their lives easier. So, what are some examples of that? We're going to dive into that a little bit more later in the content, but it's things like updating your profile, registering for an event. I told you it could be done in just a matter of seconds. Making a gift. You can give on a website. You can register for an event. It takes a little bit longer because the website doesn't know who you are. For that engaged person, that person who's a member, a regular attender, a leader in your church, they should have the mobile app and it should be the hub of what they're doing. There's a lot of things that over the years we used to push people to, the web app, meaning the database to actually log in to do. Our goal and what the direction we're moving is that the majority of that functionality that a member or a lay leader might need should all be available in the mobile app because it is just such a easy experience. It can be right there at your fingertips. Everybody's got a mobile device in their hands with them at all times. If you're sitting waiting at the doctor's office, if you have downtime wherever you are, you can pull out your app and you can register for that event. You can check your giving history. You can manage your group or look somebody up that, whatever it is, we want it to be that easy. So thanks, Brad. Let's keep going here. And I think yeah, here's a few examples. Brad, I don't know if you want to talk about any of the websites here, but these are some sites that have been built, right, on TouchPoint sites.
Sure. Yeah. Just this is a kind of a shout out to Second Baptist, and so we connected with Second Baptist and Dan there back at Summit last fall, and they were already engaged with a design agency that was working on their new brand and things like that, and connecting them up about TouchPoint sites, and they pivoted and slid TouchPoint sites in as the content management system that powers this. So excited to see, they launched here a couple months ago using a lot of the widgets. Kind of
Yeah, there's
again shows. So
at the
good.
bottom you saw that events widget, and all that data populates right from TouchPoint,
That's right.
which is really cool. So, all right, should we keep going, Haley? What I think you got a few more webs. So here's a mobile example. Won't land on this, but this is where you can actually see how someone's involved in the mobile app, right? How often do you bump into somebody at the grocery store? Maybe you're going and meeting them at a hospital or somewhere to do pastoral care. Maybe there's some kind of need. You're meeting them for coffee. You want to look up how are they involved. You want to look up notes about them. You want to know their kids' names and their spouse's name and all that kind of stuff. All that's available right there at your fingertips through the mobile app. So um, available for staff, available for lay leaders, available for congregants with the right levels of access. One of the beauties too is that it's one app, right? A lot of systems require you to have an app for leaders, an app that does this. We have focused on, we want your church to have one app to go to, and you can do everything in that one app that you would want to do. But only the people that have the right permissions or access levels based on how they're involved would be able to do those things. So I think we can keep going here. So where does all of this data live? I mean, that's the point of the database. So the audience more for the database Brad talked about, there are some things that lay leaders, members might need to log into. My goal, my vision is that we are trying to move as much of that into the mobile app, and we've done that a lot already, and there's more exciting things coming in every version. I think we're already on our fourth version of the 3.0 app. Our fifth version is we're trying to get some test apps out today. I know our team is working on getting that out so that we can be testing that and pushing the fifth version out. into churches' hands soon. And the sixth version is already in development and well underway. So we're very excited about the progress and the exciting, powerful tools. But all of that data lives centrally. It's got to live somewhere, right? So the database is the hub for those personal details, for reporting, for tasks, for staff to be able to look up notes and things. But a lot of that can be available in the mobile app. Some of that can also be available on the website, where we talked about media and resources. Not all media and resources is going to be available on the website because maybe you only want your Sunday school curriculum to be available to leaders of a particular class. Well, the things that are available to everybody can be available on your website. Those things that are only available to the people based on what we know about them, a Sunday school curriculum, a small group study guide. Maybe it's information that's only for members or only for staff members. Those are available in the same place that all your sermons and other media and content can be organized right there in your mobile app. It's all searchable. It's all organized very cleanly. But you've got things that are available to everybody as well as things that it might only be available to you based on how you're involved. So let's keep going here and um, do a little deep dive. I think you've got some more examples here, Brad, about some websites and some churches that have launched recently and some great examples. So why don't we dive into that?
That's right. So here we have Concord Church in Dallas. Real excited about the work here. So Barbara on our team, Barbara and her team with Word Revolution, they've designed countless church websites. And so they're great at kind of walking through the strategy of rebranding and design. And so this is an outflow of a lot of that work. And then Shane and Jonathan and Jimmy on our side helping implement and make this possible. And then more critically, the cohesion here with the mobile app, as you can see. And I think there's maybe a follow-up here on this next slide, if we can advance. Just some more information with Concord Church here as we scroll, and you can kind of see the different components that are available in TouchPoint sites and the animations, how it's pulling in different sermons and whatnot directly from the backend database. So it's fun to see the culture, the kind of the identity of the church really start to manifest itself in terms of how it looks on the websites. It certainly makes a website that's more pleasant to work with and create new pages. And I look forward to seeing what the team at Concord Church does with this site as they continue to kind of press outward with it. This is great. All right, so I think we have another one. Just keep going through here, Chris. So this is
Yeah.
Rock Point Church. And so there's a number of different kind of options that churches have chosen to go with. And so we mentioned a little while ago, there's Second Baptist that was already in the throes of design, and we implemented it onto TouchPoint sites. And there's Concord Church that went through a complete redesign and got implemented onto TouchPoint sites. There's Rock Point Church. If you all were at a summit last year, you might have attended Jessica's session where she talked a lot about this and other things in terms of a church communication strategy. And this is kind of in the category of what we call a clone, where we worked with Jay and Jessica and others at Rockpoint to bring their vision to reality within TouchPoint sites. So happy to see where that's come from and the various widgets and how it's pulling in sermons and events and all the rest directly here on TouchPoint sites. And then I think we have one more example here by way of presentation. This is Glen Meadows. And so this is a shout out to Levi, who's done so much work. We call this our DIY. And this really kind of not only just a big credit to Levi and all the great work there in making this happen, but also showcases what's possible from a DIY perspective in terms of just gaining access to the platform and take it from there, leveraging templates and flex templates and graphics and everything else, and just allowing the platform to do what it does well. And so there's any level of services that we can bring to bear. But here you can see it's like events here showing up in the widget and how it can also be color coded and sorted and branded and icons dropped in there and everything else. So there's lots of other examples we could get into, but those are a few key ones. I don't think we have any more to highlight, but
Yeah, I
let's.
think we'll dive into some of the mobile stuff here. So I mentioned a lot of different features. There's so much that you can do. Event signups pulls from the database. Prayer request integrates back to the database. So as you're submitting prayer request, whether that's in the mobile app or through an embeddable form that can be used on your website, that's tying back to a person's record so that you can see and know who's submitting prayer requests. How can you pray for people? There's lots of different ways you can set that up and do that integration, but it's been a really cool tool to see. I know I've caught myself several times just going in just to check out a church's mobile app, and I'll sit there and I might, click to pray for a few folks things, and 10 minutes later I'm like, oh, I need to get back to my work. I've been sitting here praying for the last 10 minutes because it's such a cool thing to see these prayer requests submitted from all over the world, all over the country from our different partner churches, and just the encouragement it is knowing that people are praying for you. So there's some cool tools in there that we're adding where you can actually mark a prayer request as answered, and we're going to have a report, a little widget in the feed that's going to show that, which I'm most excited about. Giving, pledging, all that can be done on your website in the mobile app. It knows who you are. So it's got your saved payment methods. You don't have to enter your information. You don't have to log in a second time. You can literally make a gift in 3 seconds. It's that quick. It's that easy. And then that gift reflects right there in your giving history and your statements. So again, you're not having to log in. You could download your statement at any time throughout the year. Super easy. Media, again, you're uploading it in one place, one time. It pushes seamlessly to your website, pushes seamlessly to the mobile app. And we can I'll show you some examples, I think, on one of the next slides, but it again, personal, here we go. So you're seeing sermons, but if you were to log into this mobile app, you might not see the small group study guides, or you might not see the deacon resources because I'm tagged as a deacon or I'm tagged as a small group leader in here. So again, you can set that up. You can organize this however you want. And we support, the typical content you'd expect, like audio, like video, live streams. But more than that, we can do PDFs, we can do web links. We have a resource type called Freeform where you can literally do HTML, which gives you the flexibility to do almost anything you want. And so um, very powerful. It's a native experience. It renders well right there on your device so that it's easy to use. No longer do you have to send out emails with the study guides. You can just train your leaders, hey, Monday by 9 a.m. or whatever time you make those study guides available, it's going to be in the mobile app, and that's where you go and access it. So very powerful. Back to the last slide, Haley. I think I skipped and left a few things off, but ministry connects. We have task and notes right there. So I think in this small image at the top that you see Mandy Landis, that's seeing people's completed task and notes. Really powerful tool. Yes, you could go to the website, you could log in, you could click a bunch of places, but in the mobile app, we make it so easy for you to manage your task. If you're out and about doing meeting folks for coffee, getting them connected to your church, if you're going doing hospital visits, you've got those tasks right there at your fingertips. You can mark it complete, you can dictate the note, and it shows right there on their record immediately. So very powerful. Attendance as well. That was actually something we launched in our last version. Don't think I have a screenshot, unfortunately, here, but it's completely redesigned from the ground up. Add some new features. Really powerful tool, and works really well. Makes it super easy for your group leaders to keep track of their folks, and um, at the right at the device that they carry around with them all the time. So let's keep going here. I think there's one more slide I wanted to show. Events. We've talked about this a little bit already. I'm not doing a deep dive on the mobile app, so there's a lot of things I haven't covered. If you have questions, I'm happy to talk about other features. We're trying to talk about the things that really make your job easier by managing it one place, and it pushes out to the various things. So um, but there's a lot of features here I haven't talked about. There's also a lot of features here that are in development that should be available later this summer, like pre-check-in. We're adding chat so that your groups can actually chat with each other through the mobile app. Some other things, actually, in the next version that we're going to be testing is translation. So if your church has a Spanish population or a Chinese service or something like that, we can translate all the hard coded text in the mobile app so it's easy for them to log in. It's easy for them, for folks that speak different languages, to be able to access the same great content. So super excited about that. I think that's kind of the main thing we wanted to show. We're going to jump into kind of how, I know we've already gotten some questions like, what are the next steps? How do I get connected? Maybe you're new to TouchPoint and you don't know anything about us. That would be this. If you want to use that first QR code, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to get to know kind of what are your pain points that you're dealing with, schedule a demo, how our technology could help solve some of those pain points. Let's say you're a church that's been with us for a long time. Either you're using a third-party app, maybe you're using our 2.0 app. If you want to sign up, it's available for anybody to sign up for a kickoff call for mobile 3.0 now. You don't have to move over immediately, but I would recommend it. There's a lot of great benefits. And so we are doing those as group kickoff calls for any of our existing churches, and we've got one coming up shortly here. So you can sign up on that link. And if you'd like to know more about Touchpoint sites, and let me just mention, it is branded Touchpoint sites, but as I said at the beginning, we partnered with Solutia to do this. It is a separate platform that we've integrated. It's all branded Touchpoint sites. You actually go to sites.touchpointsoftware.com to log in. So it's super easy. But it is a separate platform. There is another kind of small fee for that because we're trying to keep our costs as low as possible for everybody. So if this is something you want to use, there is a fee for that, but there's lots of different packages and options that Brad and his team can walk you through. It's very comparable, very reasonable compared to a lot of, sites builders out there. But it has the benefit of integrating right back into Touchpoint sites, right back into your mobile app. So those are some ways, some tangible steps that you can take as next steps. And I think we have a few minutes here, hopefully, for some Q&A at the end. So we've got some questions that have come in. But Brad, I know one that's come through here is kind of around the different options. I think maybe this came in earlier, so you've already kind of touched on this. There's kind of 3 different tiers. You want to talk a little bit more about that and kind of outline that briefly for folks if they're interested in Touchpoint sites?
Absolutely. So there's tier one that we call our just DIY or micro sites, and that is a church that perhaps is satisfied with the current website. They just want to have a micro site so they can benefit from the integration, or they just want to build out the website themselves. They just want access to the platform and the integration. Then the second tier would be a church that's happy with how their site looks and feels. They just want to bring it into Touchpoint sites for management and benefit from the integration. And then option 3 is a church that's ready to just rethink their entire brand and strategy and everything else. And that's where we bring in our super team, Barbara and her colleagues, to work on all the rebranding and everything else. And you're probably wondering, what does all of this cost? And so let me quantify that for you real quick. So the monthly fee for Touchpoint sites is $99 a month after the site is published, once it goes live. The cost to get started, which if you do DIY is $14.99. And then if you do a clone, we start at 30 pages and the minimum there is $3,900. But one of the things I like to encourage churches to do is go ahead and get started with that microsite. And that $14.99 is credited to a clone or a redesign implementation if you choose to add that on down the line. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more perspective in terms of cost. The days where you had to pay tens of thousands of dollars for a new website should be in the past. So hopefully that helps.
That sure is a lot cheaper than any of the, I think I was a part of 5 different website builds at Redeemer over 10 years. Not all the same site, but uh, anyway, I won't get into what we spent or what I hear other churches spending. Very reasonable. So I got a very technical question that I'll just go ahead and jump in and ask. Somebody's asking, are we planning to kind of decouple some of the, I'm just going to broaden it. There's some functionality right now that you have to have the app admin role to do. We are moving some of that so that if you're able to edit kind of typical registration settings, that you would be able to do that for the website, for the mobile app as well. And there is a new role coming related to the mobile app as well that breaks out some other functionality. So we've gotten a lot of feedback from some of those kind of alpha testers, some of the churches that have gone live on 3.0, and those are some changes that we're planning to make very, very soon here. So, um, let's see. What are some other questions here? Can this be used for members to go there and enter their family information? Be a place for all parishioners to go. So it would be a place that all parishioners can go. You can update your record. You can update your family members' records. Um, so it is the hub that we would say, yes, all people that are in your church can go create an account, um, and update their profile. They can easily add a photo, which how helpful is that, right? I've been on staff at a big church, and I have people that would come up to me all the time, and it's really hard to know that many people's names, but photos are a really helpful way to get connected and make sure, make people feel known and cared about. So, um, any other questions here? So if you have any other questions, of course, you can always send them in. We're happy to answer them. Um, I get questions about which churches are live on the mobile app right now. We have committed to our live churches, that we're trying to keep that list a little on the down low, because the app does, for the best experience, you do need to log in. And so we don't want everybody on this webinar going and downloading these churches apps. If you've already done that, we discourage you from doing that. We do have a demo app out there. It's called TouchPoint Church 3.0. It's available in iOS and Android. You can download it. You can create an account on that. It creates an account in our demo database. We have some kind of test events in there. We have some test media. You can see some of the functionality there. You won't be able to see everything. You're not going to be able to, manage tasks because you're a new person. You're not going to have access to directories. But you'll be able to see how easy and quick it is to register for an event, make a gift. Don't make a gift. But you can click on it and kind of play around and see what that looks like. If you do want to see a sample, that would be what I would recommend. You're not going to be able to take attendance because you're not marked as a leader. But if you want to dive into some of those things, feel free to reach out to us. We can, if you're not on TouchPoint, we can demo it for you. If you are on TouchPoint, a kickoff call would be a great way to dive deeper on some of these things, and we can show you a lot more. Let's see, if I have one more come through. So we have somebody asking about integrating with other website platforms. Right now, Touchpoint Sites is kind of the recommended solution. There are churches that have done integrations with other websites, either directly through an API. Some have even built widgets for other platforms. If you're part of our community and not on Discord, you could connect to some of those partners on Discord and get more information. But the officially supported recommended solution that is done in a deep, powerful way is in collaboration with our partners here at Solutia through TouchPoint Sites. So somebody's asking for, would you share the TouchPoint mobile demo again? So it's the demo app is called TouchPoint Church 3.0. If you want to go and download that, you can download that from the App Store. If you have trouble finding it, you can email support. We can send you a link. Super easy to find. So thank you all for joining us today. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Again, if you want to take some next steps and learn more, you can scan one of these QR codes, fill out the form, and somebody from one of our teams would be happy to connect with you. And hopefully you've seen some great examples here of some ways that you can hopefully save some time and have a unified experience that really serves not only your staff, your lay leaders, but your congregants, your perspectives, those that don't know your church aren't connected to Jesus yet. And uh, what a great experience would it be to have them all come through a unified platform. So thank you for taking the time today, and thank you for your partnership, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.